The night was heavy. The streets of the alien city were silent. Only the wind moved through the broken buildings. An alien girl walked slowly, her steps weak, her body shaking. She had not eaten for days. Her eyes were half closed. The glow that once lived in them was fading like a candle in the storm. She tried to stay on her feet, but her legs failed. She fell to her knees on the cold stone ground. Her hands searched for support, but there was nothing. People passed her by. Alien traders, guards, workers, none of them stopped. They looked at her and turned their eyes away. To them, she was nothing. She was broken, worthless, and already half gone. Her breathing was shallow. Her chest rose and fell like a broken machine. She felt darkness pulling her down, like deep water swallowing her slowly. She wanted to cry, but even her tears refused to come. Her strength was finished in that moment. She thought this was the end. No one cared, no one noticed. She was only one more forgotten soul in a city that had no heart. Her eyes closed and her head touched the cold ground. She felt herself slipping away, but then footsteps stopped near her. Heavy, slow, different from the rest. She tried to lift her head, but the darkness pressed too strong. She heard a voice, deep and human, not from her kind. "Hey, stay with me," the voice said, firm but gentle. A man, a human, stood above her, his clothes simple, torn from work, his hands rough from labor, his eyes filled with worry. He looked at her as if she mattered, as if her life was worth saving. When everyone else had walked away, he stayed. He knelt down beside her, his shadow covering her body. He touched her shoulder, shaking lightly. "No, don't close your eyes," he whispered. "You're not going like this, not tonight." His voice cut through the darkness, pulling her. The alien girl felt confusion. Why was he here? Why was a human speaking to her? Why did he care? Her lips moved weakly. No words came, just broken breaths, but he understood. He leaned closer. "I won't leave you," he said. "I don't care what they say. You're not alone." Her people had abandoned her. She had believed no hand would ever reach for her again. But here was one, warm and strong. Refusing to let her sink, the human looked around. The streets were still full of moving shadows, eyes watching, some filled with disgust, others with coldness, none with compassion. He ignored them. He put his arm under her back and lifted her gently. Her body felt fragile, light as if the life inside was already leaving. She gasped, but he held firm. "Easy now," he whispered. "I've got you." The city lights flickered above. The sound of distant patrols echoed. But he did not stop, carrying her close to his chest. Her head rested against him, her fading breath touching his neck. He felt her slipping again, and panic burned in his heart. "Stay awake," he said, shaking her softly. "Don't give up, not yet." His voice was desperate now, almost begging. She opened her eyes for a second, the faint glow inside them weak, but still there. She saw his face, tired yet determined, and something inside her heart whispered that maybe she was not finished. Every step he took was heavy. The streets felt endless, but he pushed forward. People stared, whispering, laughing even. "Why save her?" some said. "She's already lost," others sneered. A human fool, but his jaw tightened. He did not answer. His silence was his shield. His purpose was clear. He would not let her go. The alien girl drifted in and out, sometimes hearing his heartbeat like a drum, sometimes hearing only the pull of the dark, but always his voice dragged her back. "Stay with me, you'll make it. I promise." The night grew colder, the shadows deeper, yet in his arms burned a fire stronger than any cold, the fire of someone who refused to surrender. He knew nothing about her, not her name, not her past, not why she had been left alone, but he knew one thing. She was alive, and as long as she was alive, he would fight for her. And so, in the empty streets of a city that had turned its back, one human walked forward carrying a broken alien girl. Her light almost gone, but not gone yet, because he would not allow it, not while he breathed. The human reached an old shelter hidden under the broken streets. He pushed the rusted door open with his shoulder, dust falling from the frame. The air smelled of damp stone and metal. It was not safe, not clean, but it was away from the cold eyes of the city. He laid the alien girl down on an old mattress, the cloth torn and stained, but softer than the hard ground outside. She shivered, her skin pale, her breath shallow. She turned her head weakly and whispered something, her voice almost gone. "Leave me. It's better." The words cut through him. His jaw tightened. He knelt beside her and shook his head. "No," he said, his voice firm. "I will not leave you." His hands pressed against hers, his grip steady. "You are not dying here alone." She blinked slowly, confusion in her dim eyes. "Why?" she asked, her lips trembling. Why do you care? I am nothing. My people don't want me. They left me. Why should you stay? The human leaned closer, his eyes burning with a strange fire. Because you matter, he whispered. Even if the world says you don't, even if your people threw you away, I won't. I will not let go. Her body trembled, tears tried to form but disappeared before falling. She turned her face away. You are foolish. Human, she said, her voice fading. My life is already broken. Saving me will only bring you trouble. He sat back for a moment, his mind heavy. He knew she was right. The city hated humans. Helping her could mark him as a traitor. The guards might hunt him. The neighbors might whisper, yet none of that mattered. Not compared to the fragile breath in front of him. He took a deep breath, then leaned forward again, his voice low but firm. Maybe I am foolish, but I am not walking away. If this is the place where you fight death, then I fight with you. She closed her eyes, her chest rising weakly. The darkness tried to take her again, but every time it pulled, his words dragged her back. Stay with me, he said again and again, his voice echoing against the stone walls. Outside the shelter, the world moved without care. Patrols walked, machines roared, life continued. But inside that dark room, time slowed. It was a battle between silence and breath, between despair and hope. The human ripped pieces of his shirt and dipped them in a bucket of stale water. He cleaned the dirt and blood from her skin, every touch careful as if she might break. She winced but did not resist. Part of her wanted to push him away. Part of her was afraid, but another part, a part buried deep inside, felt warmth for the first time in years. He tried to make her drink, holding the cup to her lips. She swallowed weakly, coughing, but managed a few sips. Her throat burned, but her body welcomed it, he whispered. Good. You're stronger than you think. Her eyes flickered open, dim but watching him. Why risk yourself for me? She asked again. Her voice softer this time, not anger but fear. He looked at her and answered without hesitation. Because I know what it feels like to be left behind. His words were quiet, almost breaking. I was once nothing too. And someone saved me, now it's my turn to save someone else. The alien girl stared at him. Her heart beat slowly but firmly. She wanted to believe, yet fear chained her thoughts. She whispered, What if I die anyway? What if your effort means nothing? The human reached out, pressing his palm gently against her trembling hand. Then at least you will not die alone. I will be here until your last breath. But I won't accept that breath, not yet. Not while I can fight. The silence grew heavy, broken only by her weak breathing. She felt his hand holding hers, warm and unshaking. She felt his voice wrap around her like a shield. And though the darkness still called, it did not feel as strong. The night outside deepened. The shelter grew colder, but inside the fire of his refusal burned. He would not move, he would not let go. He sat beside her for hours, watching her chest rise and fall, listening for every breath, praying each one would not be the last. At times she slipped close to the edge, her breath pausing, her body shaking, and every time he leaned close, whispering her back, Stay, stay, don't go. Not yet, his voice stubborn, filled with desperate hope. And though her body was weak, though her spirit was torn, the alien girl began to feel something strange, something she had forgotten long ago. She felt wanted, she felt seen, not as broken, not as worthless, but as someone worth saving. When her eyes closed again, this time she did not feel the cold grip of death. She felt his hand holding hers, his voice echoing in her mind. And though she drifted into half-sleep, she knew one truth. This human would not leave her. Not now, not ever. And for the first time in years, she let herself believe maybe she was not completely lost. Maybe the fading light inside her could still burn again because he refused to let her go. The night dragged on. The broken city above them kept its silence. Only the far-off sound of patrol boots echoed like thunder in the empty streets. Deep under those streets, in the forgotten tunnels, the human sat by the alien girl, refusing to sleep. The shelter around them was no home. Its walls were cracked, pipes leaked dirty water, and rats moved in the shadows. The smell of rust and oil filled the air. But here at least the guards would not search. The people would not see. Here they had a chance, even if small. The girl stirred, her eyes half open, her voice weak. Why bring me here? She asked, her words broken like her breath. This place is cold, dark, and useless. Why not leave me outside where I belong? The human shook his head firmly. No, outside they will let you die. Here you have a chance, he said, his voice calm but strong. I don't care how broken this place looks. I will make it safe for you. She turned her head slightly, looking at the dripping pipes, the cracked walls, the broken wires hanging from the ceiling. Her heart whispered despair, but her eyes caught his face. He was tired, his clothes torn, his hands shaking from exhaustion. Yet he sat there with determination stronger than the walls themselves. He rose and began searching the corners of the shelter, finding old metal boxes, torn blankets, scraps of tools. He worked quickly, patching holes, setting up barriers, making fire with old wires and sparks. His hands moved like a man building a fortress, not for himself but for her. She watched him with confusion. No one had ever fought for her like this. No one had cared enough to waste their strength on her survival. Why? She whispered again, her voice so soft he barely heard it. Why do you fight for me? He paused, looking at her, then crouched close, his eyes holding hers. Because if I don't, you will slip away, and I cannot let that happen. His voice was not loud, but it carried weight. I don't know why life brought me here, but I know one thing. You are not dying on this floor, not while I live. Her lips trembled. She closed her eyes, feeling tears escape at last, silent and hot against her cheeks. She had been taught that weakness was shame, that crying made her less, but in his presence it felt different. It felt like her tears were proof she was still alive. The human tore the last piece of cloth from his sleeve and placed it under her head, making her rest easier. Then he broke some old crates, starting a fire in a rusted barrel. The flames cracked and spread a faint glow across the shelter walls. Shadows danced around them, but the warmth reached her fragile body. He sat beside her, his hand resting close enough to hers that she could feel it, though he did not force her to hold. He waited silent, watching her breathe. Outside, a sudden sound echoed, the stomping of metal boots on stone, voices sharp and cruel. Guards searching the lower districts, their words carried down into the tunnels. Find the runaway. She was seen near the old market. Worthless creature, probably dead already. But the order is to confirm. The girl's eyes widened, fear filling them. She tried to rise, but her body betrayed her. Trembling and weak, the human pressed her shoulder gently back. Don't move, he whispered, his face calm but his voice hard. They won't find us here, and if they do, I'll keep them away from you. Her heart raced. Her chest heaved. You will die, she whispered. If they catch you with me, they will kill you. He smiled faintly, though his eyes stayed serious. Then they'll have to try, he answered, his tone unshaken. I didn't carry you here to abandon you now. I will not leave. No matter the cost. The guards' voices faded slowly as their footsteps marched further away. Silence returned, heavy but safer. She let out a shaky breath, and for the first time she believed his words. The hours passed slowly. The flames burned low. She drifted between half-sleep and waking, sometimes whispering broken memories of her past, sometimes crying quietly every time she stirred. His voice was there, steady, telling her to hold on, reminding her she was not alone. At one point her hand reached out weakly, searching, trembling, and without hesitation his hand met hers. Warm, steady, and strong, she felt her heart calm, her breath settle. The darkness still lingered around her, but it no longer felt as cold. The human leaned closer, his voice almost a vow. This shelter may be broken, but inside here you are safe. I will not let you slip away. I will fight every shadow until you can stand again. And in the silence of the hidden shelter, surrounded by leaking pipes, broken walls, and flickering firelight, an unbreakable bond began to form. A bond built not on strength or blood, but on one human's refusal to let go of an alien girl who had already been abandoned by the world. The fire in the barrel burned low. Its orange glow flickered across the broken walls. The alien girl lay still on the mattress, her breaths uneven, each one sounding weaker than the last. The human sat close, his eyes fixed on her chest, counting every rise and fall as if his own life depended on it. Her body trembled. Sweat gathered on her skin, though the shelter was cold. Her lips parted as she fought for air. Sometimes her breath stopped for a second too long. Making his heart jump in panic, he leaned closer, whispering, "Breathe, please breathe. Don't stop now." Her hands twitched, her body twisted lightly, as if the poison inside her veins was clawing at her from the inside. The human reached for his bag, pulling out small scraps of cloth and a tin box of old supplies. He tore his shirt into strips, dipped them in water, and laid them across her forehead to cool her burning skin. She moaned faintly, whispering words in her alien tongue, words he did not understand. But the pain in her voice was clear. Her eyelids fluttered open for a moment and she looked at him, her dim glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. Why? She gasped. Why do you fight for me? I'm already lost. He shook his head fiercely, pressing his hand against hers. No, you are not lost, not while I am here. Not while you still breathe. His voice cracked but did not break, his grip firm as if holding her to life itself. Her chest heaved violently. She coughed, blood staining her lips. Fear stabbed his heart. He ripped the cloth again, pressing it against her mouth, his other hand rubbing her back gently. Stay with me, just breathe, you can do it. Don't give in now, he begged, his voice trembling. The girl cried weakly, the sound breaking the silence like glass. She whispered, It hurts. Everything hurts. I can't fight anymore. Her body shook as the darkness pulled harder, her arms weak falling to her side. The human leaned closer, his forehead touching hers, his voice low and desperate. Then let me fight for you, lean on me. I will carry your pain if I must, just don't let go. His tears fell, but he did not stop speaking. He would not stop. He searched through the supplies again, mixing old human medicine with strange herbs he had found in the city. It was not perfect, maybe even dangerous, but he had no choice. He crushed the herbs, mixed them with water, and brought the cup to her lips. Drink, please, he said softly. She resisted weakly, shaking her head, but he held her steady. Just a little, it may help, he urged. And slowly, trembling, she swallowed, coughing but keeping some of it down. Her breathing rattled but did not stop. Outside, the sound of patrols grew closer again. The echo of boots striking metal echoed through the tunnels. The human froze, his body tense, his hand reaching for the small iron pipe he had taken as a weapon. He whispered to her, Stay quiet, don't move. The guards' voices were sharp. Cruel, the runaway cannot survive long. Her kind are weak. Worthless, one of them sneered. Still, the order is clear. Bring proof of her death. Their footsteps faded slowly, their laughter filling the air. The human clenched his jaw, anger burning in his chest. He looked back at the girl, her eyes wet with tears. She had heard every word, her lips quivered. Worthless, she whispered. That is what I am to them. Her voice broke. I should not fight. I should let go. No, the human said firmly, his voice cutting like steel. They are wrong. You are not worthless. You are not nothing. You are alive, and as long as you are alive, you are everything to me. He pressed his hand harder against hers, his eyes fierce. Do not listen to them. Listen to me. I will not let you die here. I refuse. Her breathing hitched. The darkness still tried to pull her, but his words struck her heart. No one had ever spoken for her like that. No one had ever refused to let her fall. Even as her chest ached and her vision blurred, a faint spark lit inside her soul. The hours dragged on. The fire dimmed. The human stayed awake, wiping her forehead, holding her hand, whispering again and again, Breathe, stay, fight. Don't give up. His voice became the rhythm of her life. His presence the rope holding her against the pull of death. At one moment she stopped breathing completely. Her chest still, her lips pale, panic exploded in him. He shook her gently. No, not now. Not like this, come back, breathe. His voice cracked, his hands pressing against her chest, his mouth near her ear. Please don't leave me. Her body jerked. A gasp tore from her lungs, air rushed back into her. Weak but real, he sighed with relief, his hands trembling. That's it, keep breathing. I'm here. His tears fell freely, but his smile returned faintly. The alien girl looked at him, her dim eyes blinking slowly. She whispered, You will not leave, never. He answered without hesitation. Not until you stand again, not until you live. She closed her eyes, but this time not in surrender. Her breathing steadied slightly. The firelight glowed on her face, and though her struggle was not over, she was no longer alone in it. The human sat beside her, his hand holding hers, his head resting against the wall, exhaustion in his bones but his spirit unbroken. He whispered one last time before sleep pulled at his eyes, As long as I breathe, you will too. And in the broken shelter, among the leaking pipes and shadows, her weak breaths continued, each one a victory, each one a promise that the fight was not finished, not while he refused to let her go. The hours crawled like shadows across the walls. The fire in the barrel had burned almost to ash. Only a few glowing embers remained. The human sat close, his eyes heavy with exhaustion but his hand never leaving hers. The alien girl stirred, her chest rising with effort, her eyes half open. She whispered in a voice softer than a breath, I can't do this anymore. The pain is too strong. The darkness keeps calling me. Maybe it's better if I let it take me. The human leaned closer, shaking his head firmly. No, don't say that. he whispered, his voice sharp with emotion. You are still here, you are still breathing. That means you are fighting, don't give up now. She turned her head weakly, her dim glowing eyes staring at the cracked ceiling. Why should I fight? She asked, her lips trembling. My people don't want me. The city doesn't care, I have nothing left. What is the point of holding on? His chest tightened. He saw her spirit slipping into despair again, and for a moment fear gripped him harder than any soldier's blade. Then he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small piece of wood he carried. It was carved roughly into the shape of a bird. He placed it in her hand gently. See this, he whispered. I carved it when I was younger, when I was alone. I used to stare at it and tell myself, one day I will fly free. One day I will not live in chains. It gave me hope, and hope kept me alive. Now I'm giving it to you. Her weak fingers curled around the wooden bird. Her lips parted, her eyes softened with confusion. Why give it to me? She asked faintly. He smiled sadly, his face lit by the faint glow of the dying embers. Because you need it more than I do. Because you still have a chance to live, to prove to everyone who left you behind that they were wrong. And because I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. Her chest shook as she tried to hold back tears. Believe in me, she repeated softly. The words sounded foreign. No one had ever said them to her before. The human leaned closer, his eyes steady. Yes, I believe in you. More than anyone ever did. If you give up now, then their lies win. But if you keep fighting, even for one more breath, then you win. She looked at him, his face full of determination, his hand holding hers with unshaking strength, and something stirred deep inside her, a spark that had been buried under years of pain and rejection. It was small, fragile, but it burned. Her lips trembled. But I am afraid, she whispered, afraid of failing, afraid of more pain, afraid of being nothing again. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, his touch gentle. Everyone is afraid, he said softly. But courage is not about having no fear. It's about standing even when you are afraid. And you are stronger than you know. She closed her eyes, her fingers holding the wooden bird tighter, her breathing still uneven but steadier than before. She felt the warmth of the ember fire and the warmth of his words. They blended together, wrapping around her like a shield. The human stood slowly, gathering scraps of wood and metal. He fed the embers until they grew into flames again. The fire crackled, filling the shelter with light. Shadows danced across the walls, and the girl opened her eyes to see it. Her weak lips curved faintly. It looks alive, she whispered. Yes, he said, sitting back beside her. It's fire, it burns, it fights, it refuses to die. Just like you. Her chest rose with a shaky breath. Her eyes glimmered faintly in the firelight. And for the first time since he found her, she did not look like someone ready to fade away. She looked like someone holding onto a thread, fragile but unbroken. Outside, the sound of distant voices echoed again. Guards laughing, people sneering. The cruel world still turning, but inside the shelter there was only the fire. His voice and her fragile hope. She whispered, what if tomorrow they come for me? What if tomorrow is my end? The human pressed her hand firmly, his voice steady. Then tomorrow I will fight for you. And the next day and the day after that, until you can fight for yourself. But tonight you live, tonight you breathe. And that is enough. Her heart trembled. Her eyes filled with tears that finally fell, not from pain, but from something she had forgotten long ago. Hope. The fire's glow reflected in her tears, and in that moment, the darkness inside her loosened its grip. She held the wooden bird close to her chest, whispering softly, maybe I can fly too. One day, the human smiled, his eyes warm though his body was weary. You will, he promised, and when you do, the whole sky will know that you were never worthless. You were always meant to shine. Her breaths came easier now. Still weak, still fragile, but steadier. She closed her eyes with the fire's warmth on her face and the human's hand in hers. And for the first time in years, she chose not to let go in the hidden shelter. Surrounded by broken walls and dripping pipes, a fire of hope burned not just in the barrel, but in her heart, small and fragile, yet powerful enough to keep her alive through the night. The fire still burned in the rusted barrel, its light flickering against the broken walls. The alien girl rested, her breathing a little steadier than before. The wooden bird clutched tightly in her fragile hands. The human sat nearby, his eyes fixed on the entrance of the shelter, his heart heavy with the weight of danger. Above them, the city never slept. Shadows moved in the alleys. Whispers spread like smoke and rumors traveled fast. Word had reached cruel ears. Whispers that the alien girl marked for death was still alive. Whispers that a human had stolen her from the edge of darkness. In a tall building across the city, a group of hunters gathered. Mercenaries who lived for blood and coin. One slammed his fist on the table. "The council wants proof of her death," he snarled, his fangs glinting in the dim light. "But now there are rumors. Rumors that some human carries her like a treasure, protecting her." His lips twisted into a cruel grin. "Then we will crush him too." Back in the tunnels, the girl stirred, her weak voice breaking the silence. "They will come," she whispered, her eyes filled with fear. "I heard the guards. I know how my people are. They will not rest until they see me gone. And if you stay with me, they will kill you too." The human turned his gaze toward her, his eyes steady, his hand reaching to cover hers. "Then let them come," he said quietly, his tone firm. "I am not leaving you, not for them, not for anyone." Her eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling. "Why fight for me? I am nothing to them. Only a burden to you." His grip tightened, his voice rising with quiet fire. "You are not a burden. You are not nothing. You are alive. And that is enough for me. I don't care about their laws, their hate or their threats if they come for you." "They face me first." The girl turned away, her chest shaking with fear and confusion. No one had ever spoken for her like that. No one had ever chosen to stand in the fire for her. The night deepened, the tunnels grew colder. And then the sound came, faint at first but growing louder, the crunch of boots, the scrape of weapons against stone, the voices of hunters echoing in the dark. The human rose to his feet, his hand gripping the iron pipe he had sharpened into a spear. His heart pounded, but his jaw was set. He stood between the girl and the entrance, a wall of flesh and will. The girl's breath quickened. "You cannot fight them. They are trained killers. You are only one man." He glanced back at her, his eyes burning. "Then I will be one man who stands," he whispered. "I will not let them touch you." The hunters' voices grew clearer, cruel laughter rolling down the tunnels. "The human thinks he can hide her here." "Foolish," one mocked. "We will take her." "And leave his corpse behind." The girl trembled, clutching the wooden bird to her chest. "Please," she whispered. "Run, save yourself. Do not throw away your life for me." But the human shook his head slowly, his voice unshaken. I chose to stay, and I will not take that choice back." The footsteps stopped just outside the shelter. Silence heavier than steel filled the air. Then the door rattled, metal scraping against stone. The hunters had found them. The girl cried softly, her body too weak to rise. "They will kill you," she whispered. Her tears falling, the human did not look back. His body tense, his spear ready, his voice steady. "Then they will have to fight me first." The door creaked. A shadow moved across the threshold. The first hunter stepped inside, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark, his teeth bared. "Move aside." "Human," he growled. "She belongs to death. Do not make us cut you down with her." The human tightened his grip on the spear, his voice cold. "She belongs to no one. Not to you, not to death, not anymore." The hunter laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "One human against us. You must be mad." "Maybe I am," the human answered, his voice steady. "But madness is better than cowardice, and I will not let her go." Behind him, the girl's tears fell faster, but her chest lifted with something new, something fierce. She saw him standing there, alone against the dark, and for the first time, she felt a spark of strength in her own heart, a spark that whispered, maybe she was worth protecting, maybe she was worth fighting for. The hunters stepped forward, their weapons shining faintly in the firelight. The human raised his spear, his body trembling but his spirit unbroken. "Come then," he said, his voice like iron. "But know this, if you want her, you will have to kill me first." The silence cracked. The shelter trembled with the storm about to break. The girl held the wooden bird tightly against her chest, her heart pounding, her fear mixing with a strange, burning hope. And in that dark tunnel, with hunters closing in, one human stood like a shield, refusing to step aside, refusing to abandon her, his courage stronger than their blades, his vow echoing in the shadows. He would not let her go, not now, not ever. The air inside the shelter grew thick. The hunters' shadows stretched across the floor, their footsteps heavy like drums of war. The human stood in front of the alien girl, his hands gripping the iron spear, his heart racing but his spirit steady. The first hunter stepped forward, tall and armored, his eyes glowing red in the dim firelight. "Move aside, human," he growled, She was marked for death by the council. She is worthless, broken, nothing. Her life ends here. The girl whimpered, clutching the wooden bird to her chest, her body too weak to rise, her tears running down her cheeks. She whispered faintly, "Please don't fight them. They will kill you." But the human did not move. His stance wide, his voice firm. "If you want her, you will have to go through me," he said, his tone hard like steel. "And I promise, I will not fall easy." The hunters laughed cruelly. One of them sneered, "A single human against us. Pathetic." They raised their weapons, the metal shining in the firelight, but the human's eyes burned with a fire stronger than steel. The fight began. The first hunter lunged. The human swung his spear, sparks flying as metal clashed against metal. The sound echoed through the tunnels. The girl gasped, her hands gripping the wooden bird tighter, her heart pounding with fear and awe. The human fought with desperation, his arms burning, his breath heavy, but every strike was fueled by one thought. He would not let them touch her. No matter the cost, the hunters pressed forward, stronger, faster, trained killers. But he did not step back. He became a wall of flesh and will. One hunter slashed his arm. Blood spilled, pain shot through him. But he tightened his grip, his teeth clenched. He growled, "I'm still standing," and he struck back, his spear cutting across the hunter's chest, forcing him to stumble. The girl cried out, "Stop! They will kill you." Her voice cracked, her body trembling. But deep inside her something stirred, something fierce. She had been told all her life she was worthless, but watching him bleed for her, fight for her, she realized she was not worthless at all. Someone believed she was worth everything. The fight raged. The hunters circled, trying to break him, but the human fought like a storm. Every strike wild but strong, his body screamed with pain. But his spirit roared louder. He shouted through clenched teeth, "I will not let her go." At last the hunters hesitated. One of them growled, "This is madness. He will fight until he dies." Another spat, "She is not worth this." Their eyes met, their courage wavered. The firelight made the human's shadow look larger, like a giant, like a legend. With snarls of frustration, the hunters backed away. "Keep her then," their leader spat. "She will die soon anyway. And when she does, no one will remember her, not even you." They turned and vanished into the tunnels, their footsteps fading into the dark. Silence filled the shelter, broken only by the crackle of fire and the human's heavy breaths. His arm bled, his body shook, but he was still standing. His eyes turned to the girl, weak but alive. She crawled weakly toward him, her hands trembling, her voice shaking. Why would you bleed for me? Why would you fight when even my own people would not?" He dropped his spear, kneeling beside her, his hand touching her face gently, his voice soft but unshaken. "Because you are worth it," he whispered. "Because you deserve to live, and I will not let you slip into darkness. Not while I breathe." Her tears fell harder, but not from despair, from something new, something powerful. She pressed her forehead against his chest, whispering through her sobs, "You saved me, not just my life, but me. You gave me back what I thought I lost forever." He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close despite his wounds, despite his exhaustion, his voice steady. "You were never worthless. You only needed someone to remind you. And I will remind you every day if I must." The girl's breathing steadied, her heart beat stronger. The darkness that had pulled at her for so long finally loosened. She whispered, "Then I will live, not for them, not for the council, but for you, for the one who refused to let me go." The fire burned brighter in the barrel, its glow filling the shelter. Two figures sat together in the light, broken but unbroken, fragile but alive. When dawn came, the first rays of sun reached into the tunnels, touching her face. She opened her eyes, her glow faint but returning. She looked at him and smiled weakly. "I slipped into darkness, but you pulled me back." "You gave me light," the human smiled back, his tired eyes filled with warmth. "And I will keep giving it, for as long as I live." Their hands intertwined, strong and unshakable, and in that hidden shelter, an unbreakable bond was forged. A bond that no hunter, no council, no darkness could break. She slipped into darkness, but one human refused to let her go, and because of that she lived.